Hi, you all. Just waiting for everybody to show in. Come in. I know I haven't been on for like a hot minute. So, but we'll just see who all comes in. Actually, let me hurry up and go on my YouTube page and let me just post something here. So, how is everybody doing? So, like I said, I'll wait a little bit. Okay. Hi, Shelby. How are you? Like I said, it's been a hot minute since I've been live. So, but there's kind of just some stuff on my mind that I just feel led to share. So, uh, thank you. I miss everybody too. I'm just texting a friend of mine. But yeah, but like I said, I have some stuff written down, but it's just I kind of feel led to share some things. So, but how have you been, Shelby? Um, so how are, if I remember correctly, your grandparents? I hope I'm remembering correctly. So, but that's okay. I'm just gonna wait just a little bit. Well, I'll just go ahead and start talking now. But one of the things I just kind of have felt led to talk about was Saturday. I was involved in our local No Kins protest in South Bend, Indiana. And we had, if I remember correctly, I think the statistics is estimated between 5,500 to 6,000 of us participated. And throughout the United States, I believe right now they're estimating close to, was it 7 million people, something like that, throughout the United States. So I figure that is a pretty big number. So, and at the No Kins protest I was at, I did not witness or see any violence. We sang folk songs. We had American flags. And it was peaceful. Because I know some people may disagree with this. And everybody has a right to agree or disagree. That is what makes America America. But I'm just seeing right now some very unconstitutional stuff happening in our country. And actually I have like a whole I have some information written down. And again, I see a couple of things going on, which to me is a problem in America. And again, I will say, I don't believe America has ever been perfect, that there has never been any issues in America. No. As a country, we are not perfect. We have our problems. We have had our problems. Hi, Common Favor. Just kind of sharing a little bit again about what I see going on in America. And again, people can agree or disagree with me because this is America and we have that freedom to do so. And again, I'm not saying that, America, there has never been issues in America, there's never been any problems. No. America has never been perfect. There has always been problems in America because America is made up of humans. And as far as I know, there is no human being that is perfect. So with that said, I'm just seeing, in my opinion, I'm seeing a lot more unconstitutional issues happening in America here. Again, that's just kind of what I'm personally feeling and seeing. So I just want to go ahead and share some of the thoughts I have, and I do have some information written down. The first area I would like to cover is chaplains and the U.S. Army. Now, this is something I don't feel is really kind of out there in the news, but this I got a source from the OSV News and RAND Report. Okay, so this is where I'm getting my information on this part. But Archbishop Timothy D. Broglio, and I might be mispronouncing his name, of the U.S. Archdiocese for the Military Services and president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Okay, this is coming from him. October 5th, U.S. Army has canceled all religious support contracts for Army chapels, including those for religious educators, administrators, and musicians. So these are kind of what we consider as support services to help out the chaplains. Okay? And that started October 5th of this year. Previously, a memorandum was issued in March of this year by U.S. Army Installation Management Command that this would be happening. And these are some statistics I just would like to share. There are merely 137 Catholic chaplains serving the active and reserve components of the U.S. Army, yet there are more than 2,500 chaplains in the U.S. Army Corps. So less than 5.5% of the chaplain corps is Catholic, and about 20% of the soldiers are Catholic. Hey, Cheryl. So there are approximately 6 Protestant chaplains for every 1,000 Protestant soldiers and approximately 1 Catholic chaplain for every 1,000 Catholic soldiers. Hi there, Ace. So again, I'm just giving some information here. And again, I'm Catholic, so I can't speak about the Protestant chaplains. I can speak about kind of the Catholic chaplains and kind of what all they do. Okay? Catholic chaplains offer spiritual and pastoral care to any soldier and their family. Catholic faith requires continuing religious education and sacramental preparation. Catholic chaplains are most often assigned full-time to operational units. they have the demands of the units and the operational tempo of deployments, field time, and train-in rotations. So they have all of that to do. So make it impossible for a Catholic chaplain to oversee the daily operations of chapel programs without professional support. So, but also too, so there's going to be a decrease in this. And for me, I am a woman of faith. Okay. And if you're in the military, I mean, your job is going to war at times. And if there's going to be less service to help with your faith and that, I'm like, going into a time of war, I'm like, faith is always needed, but to me, that is even like probably more of a time. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Cool, Ace. So again, I'm just kind of, this is not covered in the news. So this is another kind of a problem, like different programs being canceled. Okay. Another thing that I see a problem here is the Constitution and due process. Okay, where does the due process come in the Constitution? The 14th Amendment. Okay, in the 14th Amendment, part of due process is A, you have to have a notice. So a person must be informed of the government's proposed action against them. 2, opportunity to be heard. A person must have a chance to present their side of the story and argue against the government's action. Number 3, impartial tribunal. The hearing must be held between a neutral, unbiased decision maker. And, due process and immigration customs enforcement, or ICE, are linked because the U.S. Constitution guarantees due process rights to all individuals within the country, including non-citizens, which means they are entitled to fair, legal treatment even in deportation cases. So yes, even in deportation. And even the judge and the lawyers are even, and it's not just one judge, not just one lawyer. Many are commenting when it comes to the ICE and these cases, these things are not being followed. And this is part of our American Constitution. Again, like I said, the 14th Amendment. So okay, I guess we don't need to follow that part of the Constitution will only apply to certain people. And that's also a problem. We cannot pick and choose who that, when that applies, when it doesn't apply. Because again, we're in America. The Constitution makes up America, people. Okay? That's another thing. Another problem seen is freedom of press. First Amendment protects the press from government interference, prosecution, and constraint. Again, First Amendment of the Constitution. And again, probably some of this you guys have heard, but again, I'm just kind of going over this stuff. New Pentagon media policy in 2025, spearheaded by Secretary Pete Hegseth. There was a couple things in this. I'm sorry. If you were like a news person and wanted to stay within the Pentagon for reporting, there was all of these pages of things they had to sign. One of the things, pledge against soliciting information. The revised policy released in early October 2025 requires journalists to acknowledge that soliciting unapproved information from Department of Defense personnel could result in having their press credentials revoked. Okay? So basically, they would have to get approval of what they could say, what they could report. Pentagon was also requiring news organizations to sign the new policy to receive the credentials. So basically, requirement to acknowledge the policy. And also to restricted movement. Access for accredited reporters to the Pentagon's hallways and offices were severely limited, with most areas now requiring an official escort. Prior, journalists had free movement in designated unclassified zones. Okay? So, and this was even unclassified information they had to get approval of. And basically, only one American news outlet agreed to this. For over 60 years, media organizations have been in the Pentagon. Up until recently, just one now. U.S. spent an estimated $874 billion on national defense in 2024 alone. And here is the problem with this. When you only have one news reporting, it can be biased. And they have to get the approval from the, where was it again? From the Department of Defense has to be approved what they say, what they print and say. Okay? That is also a problem. And like I said, last year, 874 billion tax dollars were spent on national defense alone. So that is our tax money, but we don't really have a right to know what's going on, except that one news place, and they have to get what they print approved first. Do we see a problem with this? Another thing, there have been federal departments layoffs. Okay? And now all of this was compiled before the government shutdown. So there's probably more than this, but this is the information so far we have. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 2,600 layoffs. National Institute of Health, 1,200 layoffs. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 2,400 layoffs. FDA, 3,500 layoffs. Center for Medicare and Medical Services, 300 layoffs. U.S. Department of Education, 1,378 layoffs. U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, 388 layoffs. USDA, 2,000 layoffs. U.S. Forest Services, 3,400 layoffs. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, 2,400 layoffs. IRS, 6,700 layoffs. And the Voice of American Agency, the Voice of America, They're an agency that broadcasts news and information about U.S. and world to audiences abroad. 1,300 layoffs. Okay. So I'm going to go a little further into the veterans and the education. Okay. 30,000 positions to be cut by the end of the fiscal year of 2025 in the Department of Veteran Affairs. Okay. And this is not uncommon of hearing this. But I know there was a veteran who has gone to the Veterans Hospital, and it was on the news, gone to the Veterans Hospital for many years, has some mental health issues. Well, the counselor's retiring, and right now, she has put her notice in a while ago, and as of right now, there's nobody to replace her, so in other words, she gave him some refills on prescriptions and said, as of right now, there probably won't be anybody here for a year to replace me. And these are veterans, okay, that have served our country. So let's just cut some positions there. Oh, and then don't forget also that President Trump gave $40 billion to Argentina. I wonder where that $40 billion could have gone instead. Okay. Department of Education. There have been, there's some different key programs here. Students with Disabilities, Office of Special Education Rehabilitative Services, could lead to diminished federal oversight of the Individuals with Disability Education Act, IDEA, may result in longer delays for families seeking help and less federal intervention when schools fail to meet these requirements. Okay, we are talking about special education services and rehabilitative services for our students. I have been a social work. I had been in social work for many years. So I know some of these plans. And, it's just like, it's not like some people, it just gives them a break to misbehave, blah, blah, blah. No. It gives them a chance to be able to succeed. Also, low-income students. The Office of Elementary and Secondary Education Staff, which administers funding programs like Title I for low-income schools, have been largely eliminated. Okay, I guess education is not important there. Students of color and those experiencing discrimination. The Office for Civil Rights, which handles discrimination complaints, have been heavily impacted. This could lead to a slowdown in investigations, reduced ability to combat discrimination. Students in rural or high poverty districts. The Impact Aid Program Office, which supports districts with large numbers of tax-exempt federal properties, has seen significant cuts. This threatens the continuity of the program that provides essential funds to these areas. Broader implications: reduced federal oversight, potential for inconsistent standards, increased burden on local educators. So your local educators, we'll just give them more responsibilities and more jobs to do now. And concerns also about higher education. And these different departments, significant reduction of staff responsible for overseeing key programs. Okay, so again, I guess the veterans and education stuff then doesn't matter that much. And also too, the other thing I want to point, there's a couple of things I want to point out, but another thing is our founding fathers, some of their grievances against the King of England, which is why we, fought for the freedom. A couple of these grievances, I think, apply today. One of the grievance, keeping a standing army in peacetime. The king kept large numbers of armed troops in colonies without the consent of the legislatures. I don't know. I think that is happening. Cutting off our trade. The king was cutting off trade, with parts of the world. Tariffs and all that, I don't know, that could be affecting trade. Maybe. Inside and domestic insurrection among the colonists. Has there been any domestic insurrection? I would say so. But again, what happened on the Capitol Hill, the Capitol building in January, according to Trump, that was just sightseers. People sightseeing that overtook that. Just plain old sightseers. So these things here that, that our founding fathers were complaining that the king was doing and why we sought freedom, this stuff is happening now. Okay? It's happening now. What else do I have here? Oh. Another thing. I don't know if any of you guys know this, but online, you can find hats, t-shirts, and sweatshirts that say ICE federal agent on them. So maybe, and you can also find the tactical gear online, the tactical vest. You can buy those online too. You can buy the mask that they wear on their head. Oh, and sunglasses, you can buy those anywhere. But accordingly, the ICE officials they don't have to give their name or badge number. Well, I'm sorry, people could kind of also get this stuff online and pretend to be ICE. And also, too, why do the police, they need warrants unless they have reasonable cause? I don't think that was really happening with ICE. What else? Oh, and our police, when they come up to you, they tell you their name. You can ask for their badge number. But for ICE, all you have to do is go by their clothing they wear. And they say they're ICE, so, they're obviously ICE. Again, the Constitution and due process is being eroded away in our country. And I don't know, maybe all of you don't know me. I have never been a political person. But when I am seeing the country I love and the Constitution I love just be like, okay, we don't need to follow the Constitution. We don't need to follow due process. And no longer treating human beings with dignity and respect, that's a problem. That is. There was like somebody said this one quote, which I love, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it. But basically, it says that how you can tell a country is great is by how it treats the marginalized, the elderly, the poor, those who feel that they don't have a voice. You know, the vulnerable. And right now, our country is sucking on that. Just totally sucks on all of that. And I love my country. And this is why it is so heartbreaking that we are totally sucking on those points right now. We have a constitution in our country. Our country was founded by the Constitution. The Constitution is, even if you disagree with it, you can't be like, well, I will only follow this part, but not this part. Oh, this part, and you can't pick and choose what part of the Constitution. Okay? You just can't. And also, too, this is the one thing, all of these tweets that Trump is doing that, oh, they're funny, they're supposed to be funny, ha 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 ha. They're immature and juvenile. And this is the president of our country, the leader of our country. It's insane to me. And I don't know if, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but President Trump wanted to add a ballroom to the White House, which I do understand, for gatherings with dignitaries and special stuff. Might be good to have like a bigger place to have that. And he said that he would not ruin or interfere with the White House, the building of itself. Yesterday, he started to tear down parts of the East Wing. Yes, part of the East Wing of the White House. Now, I'm not opposed to the ballroom, but don't tear down part of the White House to add it. It could be like a little breezeway in the back connecting from one building to the other building. And the other building being the same kind of style design of the White House. Something like that. But no, there are bulldozers. This is the White House is our house. The White House is always just a temporary home for the president and his family. It is never their own home. It is the people's home. And I'm sorry, these things I'm just don't understand. And I know I have not spoken aloud on this. Because again, I have never been a political person. My family are not political people. But I love this country. I love the Constitution. But this America we have right now is not the America I was taught about in school. Was not the America I grew up in. Unfortunately, this has become an America where due process you can crap on, the Constitution you can crap on, humanity you can crap on. And if you disagree with somebody, well, they are evil. They are terrorists. They want violence. They want to overthrow the government if they disagree with you. And that is none of that is what I want. I just want due process to be for everybody, the Constitution for everybody treated with dignity, compassion, and worth. That is what I want. And I don't think that is something that is impossible to be asking for. Because again, when any part of the due process, Constitution, if any of those are chipped away, you're talking like a little and a little and a little at a time, we are no longer America. And that is pretty scary, y'all. Like I said, I just felt like I really needed to put this out here. Because again, silence is the enemy. And again, I know that, not everybody can speak out. And I get that. But those of us who can speak out, we need to speak out. And just remember, Saturday, there was close to 7 million of us in America. 7 million. That is a whole heck of a lot of people. So even if you disagree, trust me, you are not alone. You have at least another 6 million of us behind you. So just please pray for this country. And pray for Trump, too. Because this is not the country right now that I want our country to be. I hope that makes sense to you all. So, and again, I might have some people who might not like what I'm saying. That is their right. Because freedom of speech is one of our constitutional rights. So, thank you all for being here. If you want to make any comments, afterwards, no problem. I know this is not my usual type of stuff I cover on my channel, but I just, again, feel a real need to be speaking out. Because, again, silence is the enemy. And after Saturday, and there being at least close to 7 million of us involved in the No Kings March, I would say there's a lot of us kind of seeing problems in our country that are kind of big and huge right now. So, again, thank you all for watching. I'll let you all go. This was not the most easy thing for me to do. Definitely a little nervous. Because again, I am not a political person, so this is all kind of brand new territory for me. But I just feel a real need and passion in talking about this. Because again, I love America and I love the Constitution. But this is not the America right now that I was taught about in schools or grew up in. So again, if you can, speak out. If you can't, I understand. But if everybody could just please pray for our country and pray for our president. Because right now, the way our country is, like I said, I just feel right now that our leaders are like, okay, let's crap on the Constitution. Let's crap on due process. Let's crap on the humane treatment of others. Let's crap on compassion towards others. Let's crap on treating people with dignity. And those things do not make a great nation in any way, shape, or form. So, thank you again for watching. Like I said, I might get comments from haters, and they have rights to their opinions, like I have a right to my opinions. So, thank you again, y'all, for watching, and like I said, I know this was different, but thank you again, and hope y'all have a good rest of the night, or if you're watching this tomorrow, a good rest of the day tomorrow. So, talk to y'all later. Bye.